Hello everyone, I am your host CA Rahul Bajaj. Today's webinar is about various benefits available under EPF and how to effectively manage your EPF. We have our guest speaker Atul Kotkar, who is Regional PF Commissioner currently posted in Goa. Earlier, he was in Pune and Bangalore. He is BSc Biotechnology and Master in Business Law. He is also known for various awareness programs run by him for EPF. Today, being a weekend and he is in Goa, still he is taking out time for us. That certainly shows that how important this webinar is for us. So I will now request Atul Kotkar to take over the session. Over to you, Atul sir.
Sorry for the disturbance. Yeah, thank you, Rahul. Thanks a lot. I appreciate the effort taken by you to create awareness about various subjects among the various stakeholders, including the taxpayers, then the CAs, and obviously the students who are preparing for the exams. So I really appreciate the way you spread the awareness through your channel. It's really appreciable, and I really thank you for inviting me for this webinar over here. Okay, guys, very good afternoon to all of you. I'll be explaining here the benefits available under the EPF and MP Act. Basically, I have designed this presentation for 2 hours. So today, as we have 1 hour session, it will not be possible to explain everything about the employer's perspective. I'll be focusing on the employee's perspective, okay, of looking towards this act. Many of you may be the PF subscribers. Many of you may be working as in capacity of HR, and all of you, as Rahul is hosting this, many of you may be auditors also. So, being auditor, it is our duty. Like I am also, kind of working in a statutory body. So, in a way, we also do audit of the establishments. Like whatever audit you do, it is our duty to verify that. So, it is our duty ultimately to give whatever benefits available to the subscriber in the letter and spirit. So, the purpose of this 1 hour webinar is to make you aware about what are the benefits available under the EPF and MP Act and how effectively this account can be managed by the beneficiaries. So, I'll start with my presentation, and if you have any queries, please note them down. And we will have some 10-15 minutes time at the end of the session to discuss it with you. Okay, or if you can type it in the chat box, I think there is a facility, we can take it in the sequence later on. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen. So when you become member of the EPF and MP Act, see, when you become member, it is itself a question when we can become a member. So when the establishment is coverable under the EPF and MP Act, as of now, the coverage is limited for the establishments. It is not limited actually. It is statutory and mandatory for the establishments which are employing more than 20 employees or 20 or more employees. All such establishments are by default supposed to get registered with the EPFO, and they should start debiting provident fund contributions from the employees account and also start contributing equal share towards such employees towards EPFO. So when the member becomes when an employee becomes PF member, by default he gets benefit of 3 different schemes. So these 3 schemes are provident fund scheme, pension scheme, and insurance scheme. Many of us are not aware about insurance scheme because it is not debited from or it is not deducted from our salary. The liability of contribution towards the insurance fund is entirely on the employer. So this insurance contribution is made by the employer. So there is a possibility that many of you may not be aware about it. But yes, these are the benefits available. So when we talk about EPF accumulations, these are the accrued PF. This is the accrued PF amount available in your account, and it is the interest is credited into the account at a compounded rate of interest. And the rate of interest, I'll discuss that later on. But these benefits are in terms of suppose somebody has died and this focuses on the death-related benefits, but even some account is getting matured, then the entire accrued PF amount along with the interest, compounded interest up to the date of settlement. This up to the date of settlement is important because it is not up to the date of death or up to the date of last contribution. In case of last contribution, surviving member, I'll explain it later. The important point over here is the interest is paid up to the date of settlement. Pension benefit. This pension benefit is the highest benefit available, pension. So this pension benefit is very important thing because this is the best pension scheme available in the country today. Why I'm saying so? Because this scheme is not at all linked with what you contribute. This scheme has defined benefits. Suppose some member has joined in the month of October 2021. Its contribution for October was paid by 15th November. His November contribution is being paid by December now, or it was under process. Unfortunately, he dies on say 10th of December. So his widow and the children will be eligible for the pension even if the member has contributed only for 1 month or 2 months. The benefits are defined, and another thing what I'm trying to mention by the meaning the benefits are defined is these benefits are not at all linked with what you've contributed, because your earlier contribution, suppose somebody has joined in 1995, his first contribution or the contribution for first 4-5 years may be hardly 100 rupees or 200 rupees per month. Now, if the member is retiring after 25-28 years of service and his last 5 years average contribution is 15,000. So the pension calculation will not consider what he has contributed at that time. It will just consider the total service he has rendered into the average salary for the last 5 years divided by 70. This also I'll explain further. But what I want to mention over here is that the benefits are defined. Family is having a disabled child, the widow plus 2 dependent children plus another third one disabled child mentioned. So the family of the deceased person will get 4 pensions. One is widow plus 3 children. And the superannuation pension is also available after 58 or 60. Then next benefit is insurance. This insurance is available only when death occurs while in service. This insurance amount is directly linked to the contributions received in the last 12 months, and the beneficiaries are same as PF beneficiaries. This insurance thing also I'll explain. So now we have to look at this act to employees' perspective. If you guys feel camp very fast or if the things are not clear, you can unmute and let me know immediately. So first thing I'll be explaining about contributions. There is a lot of confusion about contributions. See, one thing is very clear, I clearly mentioned that 12% of the wages shall be debited from the employee's salary and to be contributed to the EPF. This thing I am only talking about employee's contribution. So this 12% of wages for the employee's contribution, there is no wage ceiling concept. Okay, there is no wage ceiling because if one's salary is 1 lakh rupees, the person can contribute 12,000. He can contribute 50,000. He can contribute entire 1 lakh. There is no upper limit. Okay, in his own account. But he cannot expect the employer to contribute the same. Even if the salary is 1 lakh rupees and the employee is contributing 12,000 per month, he cannot expect the employer to contribute equal share of 12,000 per month. As per the statutory compulsion on the employer, he can be enforced to contribute only up to 15,000 rupees per month wages. So he can what we can enforce on the employer is 1,800 rupees per month employer share of contribution. But there are various employers as the advanced or the new contracts are not salary based, they are CTC based. So there are various employers who mention this component as entire wages or entire salary, and then on that entire CTC or on the entire remuneration, they take 12% because ultimately it is being debited from the CTC package. What I'm trying to tell you over here is, as per the salary concept of wages, we can enforce the employer only to contribute on 15,000 per month. Anything over and above cannot be enforced, and simultaneously for you employees, you can contribute any amount towards Provident Fund account. There is no upper limit for PF membership or the PF account. And then when we talk about EDL and pension, yes, there is a wage ceiling of 15,000 per month. It's not an example of 1 lakh salary per month or 50,000 per month. Now, suppose there is an employee, okay, whose salary is 25,000 per month. But now, after consultation with CA, after consultation with their auditors, or after what the management has a policy and a number of things, no, They have decided a salary structure or wage structure as basic salary 9,000, DA 2,000, HRA 4,000, some performance allowance 5,000, some other allowances 5,000. So this total is 25,000 now. Now the question comes, what will be considered as wages for PF contribution? Here basic is 9, DA is 2,000. So total is 11,000. General concept is basic plus DA. But this performance allowance or special or other allowance 5 plus 5 10,000. As per the various landmark cases and as per the letter and spirit of the Act, and as this is a beneficial legislation passed by the Parliament for the benefits of the employees, the definition of wages and the concept of allowances is always considered in this manner that it will benefit the employees. So, in this particular example, the PF deduction ideally should be on 15,000 wage ceiling. Basic 9, DA 2, total is 11. Special allowance or personal allowance 5,000, total is 16. Other allowance to 5,000, total is 21. HRA is excluded, provided HRA is rational and it is following the concept, or suppose basic is 9,000 and HRA is 18,000 and somebody is actually saying that in your act HRA is mentioned as excluded. Please understand the judgment in Vivekananda Vidya Mandir case or Bridge and Roof case for that matter, or there are various other judgments in the Manipal case also. It is very clearly mentioned by the Honorable Supreme Court that these allowances are nothing but nomenclatures introduced by the employer. So authorities will verify whether the amount is contributed on 15,000 per month or not. As far as wage ceiling is concerned, each wage ceiling is increased from 6,500 to 15,000 from 1st of November 2014. So, if any establishment has implemented this increase in the wage ceiling contribution on 9,000 or 11,000, and then this thing comes to the notice in case of the special and other allowances, definitely the dues will be assessed on that difference of 4,000 statutorily. So, this thing needs to be understood. Even if you are working as an employee, it is your right to claim the benefit on the wage ceiling. Employer cannot deny benefits to you on the wage ceiling. Now there is another example. Somebody is working as a sweeper or MTS or office boy. Then and his total remunerations are only 11,000. Then you contribute on 11,000. Then the employees can demand contribution on 11,000 only. If your wages is 11,000, then the contribution will obviously restricted to 11,000 only. So these case laws are there. You can find them easily on Google and download and read them. These are very beautiful case laws. You can go to the ratio mentioned in them and you can understand the concept. Now, in this concept of wages, as we all know, the labor codes are passed by the Parliament and Social Security Code is also one of them, and they are yet to be implemented. Effective date of implementation is yet to be announced. But yes, they are passed and they have received President's nod and they are just waiting for the notification. So, in the present security code or the codes which are about to be introduced shortly, there this concept of wages is it's clear. What it says, wages for the purpose of this act will be, or the allowances for the purpose of this act shall not be more than 50% of the gross wages. But what I was trying to tell you about interest. This interest is exempt at all stages. It is exempted at 8.5% for this year. But recently a new provision is introduced which says that interest earned on annual contributions made over and above 2.5 lakhs. Suppose some employee is remitting 3.5 lakhs in this financial year 21-22 and his own contribution is more than 2.5 lakhs, it is 3.5 lakhs, so it is in excess of 2.5 lakhs by 1 lakh. So whatever interest earned on that 1 lakh rupees, that interest portion is taxable. Okay, so this is a newly introduced provision. This was not there till last year, but yes, this was not there as far as EPF and MP Act is concerned. But IT authorities used to consider this while calculating the interest and considering the individual accounts and their own assessment. They were applying the Income Tax Act 1961. So this interest is payable up to the date of settlement, not up to the date of death. And there is one interesting provision which many of us do not know. This interest is payable only for 36 months from the last date of contribution. This after attainment of 55 years, but suppose some employee is 42 years of age now. He was working with some establishment 6 years back, and now from 36 years of age to 42, he is not working anywhere. His amount is lying with EPF. After 11/11/2016, when this para was notified, he will get interest as his age is less than 55. Now take an example: somebody was 54 years of age, and he is not in employment since last 4 years. His age is now 58. His age is now 58. So 54 to 57 years, his account is fetching interest. His all accumulations are fetching interest. That interest is tax free up to the age of 57 years. 57 to 58. There is no interest being credited, or there will be no interest given by EPFO. Such an employee is advised to withdraw the contribution at the earliest. Now, take an example: one employee contributes up to the age of 60. Then obviously, he will get interest up to 63 years of age. From 64th year onwards, he will not get any interest. So this interest is available only for 36 months. And prior to, if somebody is in the working age, this provision is introduced just to make them not to withdraw these benefits prematurely or before attainment of superannuation age. That's why this 55 years of age is introduced. Suppose somebody is not having, again I am giving one more example, suppose somebody is not having job after 45 years of age, he is not in employment from last 5 years, his age is now 50, he is going to get interest for the entire 5 years. This 36 years, 36 months clause will not apply to such employee. Okay. He will keep on getting interest up to 55. In such case, up to the time this employee becomes 55 years of age, from 45 to 55, even if there is no contribution payable, the employee will get interest for the entire 10 years. What I am trying to tell you over here is, interest is payable for 3 years after the last contribution at the relevant rate of interest, and it is again tax free. It is again exempted from the taxation bracket. PF account transfer, pension benefits. This is broad calculation. Pension is broadly calculated as pensionable service into pensionable salary divided by 70. Take an example, employee joined, now there is this pensionable service into pensionable salary divided by 70. This is a broader formula. This formula has many things involved, like the scheme, this pension scheme itself started after 1995. So service prior to 95, there is another table available. So that service will be considered as past service, and that for that past service, a particular amount will be given that will be added to this formula. Whatever outcome of this formula after considering service from 16 November 1995 onwards. So suppose somebody has joined in 1995, he is retiring in 21. Whatever his earlier contributions may be, his total service is 26 years. His pensionable salary will be last 5 years average, and the wage saving consideration will also be, wage saving difference will also be considered, and this entire calculation will be divided by 70. So suppose an employee, he was working with 5-6 different establishments. Now, as many of the new employment guys are working with IT or with various corporate establishments, even if they are working in the manufacturing sector, they tend to, not the worker class, but other service or managerial class, they keep on changing the jobs. Okay, it is their right, and it is their, definitely they should go for better perspectives. But the general understanding is that whenever we change the job, we should withdraw the PF accumulations, we should withdraw the fund, and we should sell out the pension service. Like generally people feel Form 19 and Form 10C, and they just withdraw their entire accumulations, they just withdraw their pension benefits. This is nothing but you are losing a lot of benefits. See, I would just like to tell you, see, when you withdraw, suppose somebody was working in some establishments for 6 years, and his PF accumulations along with the rate of, up to the rate of settlement, he has withdrawn along with the interest, but his pension accumulations, First of all, pension accumulations are nothing but they are just notional accumulations, because anywhere these accumulations do not play any role. Whatever your employer has contributed towards pension does not play any role. Whatever number of years are and whatever number of years you have served, that plays a role in terms of in pension calculations. So suppose somebody has worked for 6 years, now he has changed the law and he is withdrawing pension service by submitting Form 10C. He will just open his passbook and he'll just see that over the years he has contributed, his employer has contributed, this pension contribution is made by the employer, 8.33 of 15,000 wage ceiling on your wages. So that is carved out from 12% equal contribution made by the employer. So this 8.33 goes to pension fund. That's why I'm mentioning that contribution made by the employer. So this, he just made calculations of the contribution made by the employer, and he found out that Mr. X finds out that in this all this 6 years he has contributed 50,000 towards pension fund plus some 6 years interest, some 20,000. So I may get around 70,000. He will not be getting something, maybe not more than 35,000. He will not be getting even 50,000, whatever he has contributed, because he is selling his service, pensionable service. So pensionable service, these are the benefits are given and the calculations are made as per the tables and as per the provisions mentioned in the scheme which is passed by the parliament. This is not an FD and this is not a saving account. Okay, please understand. So it is not at all advisable. Any person who knows mathematics, any person who understands the concept of interest, any person who understands the basic concept of loss will definitely not withdraw this. So why this is being done? Because people are not aware. Previously, we used to settle physical claim forms. Now our 95-96% claims are online. So previously, what people used to do, there was a column. I am unemployed since last 60 days. So please give me this money. Employer used to attest, previous employer used to attest, and employer used to sign on that declaration and he used to just submit to EPFO. And EPFO was not having any means to verify whether he is employed or not. Okay, but now in the UN era, we know that the person is employed. So in any case, we are not doing, as far as possible, we are not settling this kind of claims. But there are many employees who claim this way, even if you are not employed and if, for 60 days, and if you are not in genuine need of the funds, do not withdraw prematurely. Okay, you can claim advance by submitting Form 31, advance for unemployment, but you should not entirely close the account. It is a great loss to you. You are losing a benefit of the most beneficial scheme available. Okay, then, so that is what I was trying to tell. You should keep on transferring. So more the service, more the benefit. You can understand here. You can see the calculations. The pensionable service, more the factor, automatically the multiplication will be more. Then 2 years weightage is given. So suppose if 5-6 software industries he has changed in his total service, and he please keep on transferring the account. If he is keep on submitting Form 13, and if he is not withdrawing the services, if he is not withdrawing the pension benefits from time to time, he is keep on transferring. Then if his service is more than 20 years, we will give 2 years weightage. 2 years weightage means we will give 2 years additional calculation in pensionable service. So suppose somebody has worked for 33 years, we will do calculation for 33 years, then again we will do it for 2 years and we will give some more benefits. That is called as weightage. So if somebody is having more than 20 years of service, additional benefits are available. Then there are some benefits available in death away from service. This I have made a separate slide for this. This I explained. But death away from service is also available. Benefits in case of pension. That this insurance law is not available for death away from service. What is the meaning of death away from? What is the meaning of death while in service? That also I'll explain in the next slides. There are slides separately prepared for that. Then for the PF scheme, advances. What are the advances? Advances are non-refundable. They are being paid from your own PF account. So it is nothing but you are just taking out some money from your own account, the way you take it from savings account. And there you can contribute again, there you can deposit again. The difference is here you cannot refund back these advances. Okay, you can increase your PF contributions separately as voluntary PF contributions, but these advances are not refundable. So what are these advances? Advances can be claimed from PF account for the purpose of education, marriage, house building, purchase of a flat, renovation of a flat, a number of such reasons, medical expenses. Okay, and but though these advances are declaration basis, these advances declaration basis online available. You have to just declare that I am admitted in hospital or somebody of my relative admitted in the hospital. No need to upload medical certificate. You can submit a claim form. Money will be deposited in your account. Now, educational benefit for the educational purpose, you want advance, or for house purchase, you want 90% or 100% of your accumulations. These advances claims require minimum qualifying service. For house building, the minimum qualifying service is 5 years. Your account must be 5 years old, or your account must be more than 5 years mature. Okay, if you want to get married, obviously you can get married anytime. But if you want to claim marriage-related advance, minimum qualifying service is 7 years. So if you want assistance from the PF account, you should minimum work for 7 years and then only get married. So what I'm trying to tell over here is, okay, if you keep on transferring the accounts, your total service is more, your date of joining shifts to the previous date of joining of the previous establishment, previous to that, that way. And then your total service is counted in this manner. Now, in EDLI benefit,
affidavit development means it. Oh,
please mute yourself. EDLI benefit minimum 2.5 lakh is guaranteed benefit. EDLI is death violence service. Death violence service means suppose you are working in a company in a software industry, and suppose Mr. X was working in a software industry, his death occurs while he was going home and the accident occurs, or because of COVID or because of any reason. Death violence service is not like factory IT. It does not mean that you should or Mr. X should die only in the office premises or when he was in the office. It's not like that. The only condition is that Mr. X must be on the rolls of the company. He may be admitted in the hospital. He may be on the you guys call it as leave without pay. Okay, he may be on the leave without pay, but he is there on the rolls, and his employer or his HR is mentioning the NCP days, non-contributing period, in the ECR, monthly ECR. So we are aware that the employee is on the roll, but this non-contributing period is going on. And if Mr. X dies, and if the service is more than 1 year, okay, minimum 2.5 lakhs is guaranteed under EDLI. Okay, so now consider Mr. X was working in ABC Limited. He resigned and he has joined XYZ Limited. He is working in XYZ Limited only for 2 months. And fortunately, he has transferred his previous service. His family or the beneficiaries will get minimum 2.5 lakhs, and I would say they will definitely get more than up to 7 lakhs, provided his previous calculations are considered and the service is transferred. Then another thing why you should transfer PF accounts is premature withdrawals are taxable. What is the meaning of premature withdrawal? If the accounts are withdrawn before 5 years of completion of the account, okay, if somebody has worked only for 3 years and is withdrawing, then the entire account, the entire amount available in his provident fund account, this entire withdrawal is taxable. This entire withdrawal amount is taxable. I am not talking about interest. Okay, the concept behind this is you have already availed tax benefits while contributing. Okay, and the purpose of giving you tax benefit was to make you independent in your lay years, or we can say the years in which you cannot work. Suppose you are taking this withdrawal after 58 years, so whatever accumulations have, you contribute now. So government is pushing you, or they are giving you what is called as advantages and the benefits, with the purpose that you should keep some savings with yourself so that you can take care of your own future and you will not be a liability on the state. If you are doing premature withdrawals, you should pay tax because ultimately it will be liability on the state. So this is the concept. So premature, now if you are transferred previous services and the service is more than 5 years, and then you are withdrawing, then this withdrawal is not taxable. And advances, any type of advance you claim from your PF account, it is not taxable. Entire closure is taxable. Okay, so this is what I wanted to tell you about PF account transfer. So my general advice to all of you is you should not at all settle your PF account when you change the job. Keep on transferring it. You require money, you claim advance. And these advances are settled within 3 to 4 days. I have got a very good email from, I'll say it's testimonial by one EPF member when I was working in Pune. He was admitted in one hospital, one famous hospital, and when he got admitted and he came to know that he needs admission and further treatment require this much cost, immediately he opened his Umang application and filed a claim. He got discharged on the 6th day. Before getting discharged, the amount was credited in his PF account, his savings account, and he cleared the hospital bill using that amount. So that was kind of good achievement for us, and it was good words written for us. So this is the way you should, everybody should operate their account without settling them. In short, I'll explain this nomination thing. Nomination is, in case of a married member, entire family members are eligible for monthly pension. If the death occurs while in service, parents are also entitled for nominee pension if the person is unmarried. If the person is unmarried and he is not having any parents also, so person is akela kind of. He is unmarried, he is not having parents, so there is no family, the pension will be released as per e-nomination filed by the member, provided he has somebody dependent for that pension. And PF will be released as per the e-nomination file. Okay, then children or orphan are entitled to get children orphan pension up to 25 years of age. Children pension is available to 2 children at a time. From oldest to youngest, suppose Mr. X is having 3 children when he died. He was having 3 children when he died. So first child was 23 years of age, second was 19, and third was 15 years of age. So pension will start for the oldest and the second oldest child. So once the first child of 23 years of age completes 25 years of age, automatically the pension will start for the third child. So you should know, everybody should file nomination and give correct information so that employer is also aware and PF office is also aware. In many cases, HR is not aware about this thing. HR thinks the pension is available only for 2 children, so they declare only, they give information only for 2 children. So third child, who is otherwise eligible once the first child comes out of the benefit. At a time 2, first child comes out after 25, third child comes in. And if the family is having disabled child, no more pension is given. This orphan pension is 3 times the children pension. So suppose after after Mr. X died, Madam X started receiving the pension, and after a few days, Madam X married. Madam X gets remarried. Okay, then children are treated as orphan pension. Children are treated as orphans, and they will be getting 3 times more pension they used to get a children pension. Or suppose because of COVID or because of any other reason, both the parents are died. Mr. X died, Madam X also died, then the children will get orphan pension. And now this is death while in service. So while in services, death occurred because of any reason. So these are the benefits available. I have just explained this. In case of unmarried, this is an important point over here, the last one at the bottom. Pension, even if only 1 month's contribution is received, is payable to dependent father. In case of unmarried member, suppose Mr. X is 26 years of age, he has just joined, he was MP only 1 month, 2 months, 1 year, 2 years of service, and he was unmarried. He nominated his father. His father will get pension. After father's death, mother will get pension. Okay. And if he nominates his mother, then only mother will get pension. After mother's death, it will not pass on to the father. Okay, so this thing is crucial. It should be taken care while filing e-nomination. So it should go to the father ideally first, then it will be carried on to the mother. Okay, now this was death while in service, now death away from service. Many of us are not aware about this benefit. Pension benefits are also available if death occurs while away from service. Suppose now, and we have seen various deaths surrounding us during the COVID. So please listen to this provision carefully. Now, Mr. X, as he is well aware and he has listened to this kind of some webinar or seminar, and he was sure that even if I am out of the service, I should not withdraw this unless I complete 58 or 60 or 50 years of age, whatever it is. So he was a smart person and he did not withdraw. He was working with ABC Limited. Because of some reason, he was unemployed from last 2 years, 3 years. Okay. He was not a PF, he was not an active PF member. Death has occurred away from service. And now the death occurs and it has occurred away from service. This person was not contributing from last 2-3 years. Okay. Now Mr. X has died and fortunately he has not withdrawn the benefits. If would have withdrawn, it would have been treated as accounts permanently closed. He has not withdrawn any benefit. The account is still intact in the PF office. His widow and the children will immediately get pension. But if he is unmarried, his parents will not get the pension. If his service was less than 10 years. Okay, so please understand, if somebody is in your surrounding who has died, just verify, just ask his family whether he was working in some establishment, whether he was having PF account, just verify whether those accounts are yet to be settled or not. If they are yet to be settled, definitely it's a good news for the family will get, the widow will get lifetime pension, disabled child will get lifetime pension and 2 children will get pension up to 25 years of age. So this is benefit available. And this is upper limit I have already explained. Many people do not know about this last point. Pension, yes, APS contributions are to be restricted up to 58 years of age. But as per the recent notifications of 2014-15 and then another one in 16, it can be extended up to 60 years of age with or without contributions. So those who are eligible, they can extend the service. They can extend it up to 60 years. If they extend it with contribution, remember I have told you it is total service. So your service will get added by 2 years. More the service, more the contribution, more the factor. So this extension of service is advisable. Okay. So now we have introduced one e-nomination thing. So I'll just take 1 minute. I know we are short on time. E-nomination thing is, it is available in your login. Just log into your PF account, or if you are a consultant, an HR or an employer, please arrange a camp for your employees and educate them to file e-nomination through their own login. If they file e-nomination, they can decide how much percentage goes to whom. Okay, after the death, member cannot decide, no, then there will be filed. And then if there is some issue, and as per our provisions, the things are not clear, then the office will call for succession certificate. This will be another trouble for the family. So it is always better to file e-nomination in time and decide the percentage, how much percentage goes to whom. Okay, then there is no need to submit physical claim form to our office. If the e-nomination is filed, member's family can file the claim online. This is the only thing. Death claims we are not able to receive online till date, because if the member is leaving the service, he is having his own password, he is having his own account number, he is having his own details, he can log in, he can submit the claim. But when the member dies, his login is not useful. If somebody knows the login, then also they cannot file death claim. Okay. And in many cases, people do not know the password of the deceased person. So how to receive the claim from such things? Through e-mode, online mode. Suppose member X was working in Goa and his family, he was working on daily wages kind of thing. He was a PF member and his family is in, his family is from say permanent. Okay, family is poor. It's not possible for them to come over here and submit a claim. Even if they send through the post, HR receives, HR does not receive, or then HR submits to PF office, PF office say this is missing, that is missing, in number of things. Again, it goes back, again they send. So the entire process settling of the claim requires 2 or more years, maybe 1 or 2 years. So to avoid all this, if the e-nomination is filed, members' family can file. These are the documents required for e-nomination. Members family, or suppose Madam X details were submitted by Mr. X before his death through e-nomination mode, and then Madam X has to just log into our portal. She can take help of anyone, any relative who is well educated and can help her out. She has to just go, and the second last tab, death claim filing by beneficiary, she can go over there. Then she has to just submit the UN number, her own Aadhaar number, her name as per Aadhaar, and her own date of birth. Then this portal will send OTP on her Aadhaar linked mobile number. Once she submits the OTP or the PIN, automatically a portal will open and she will be able to file the claim. Okay. The portal automatically verifies everything because Mr. X has already given these details for the people for whom Mr. X has submitted these details. Only those people will be able to submit the death claim. So this is another step PF office is taking forward to get the death claims online. So that was all for the benefits of the employees. If we can arrange one more thing, we will definitely, I'll try to cover one more part I have, which deals about employer's perspective. And as employer's perspective, I can say the auditor's perspective or the CS perspective. What are the things which are mandatory? What things are to be done in time? And what are the liabilities of the employer? What are the liabilities of the principal employer? What kinds of offices? What kind of offices are these things we can consider or we can discuss if we can conduct one more session about this. Discuss it with Rahul. Okay,
yeah,
thanks.
sure.
Yeah, I just thank you. Thanks a lot for giving a patient hearing. Now the forum is open for your questions. Thank you.
I guess we have received 2-3 questions in chat box. So if you can answer those, that will be great.
I'll share this PPT, no issues. Somebody is asking PPT. Should I continue with perspective of interest tax benefit? I don't know the age of Mr. Nandakishore. I would say if you are above 55, you just see that 36 months are over or not. If the 36 months are over, this amount will be credited into inoperative account and you will not be earning any interest. So obviously when you are not earning interest, so I would suggest withdrawal is a better option. If you are less than 55, you can, I would suggest not to withdraw. If you get future employment, you can transfer this account. And again, there is no upper age limit for PF contributions. Okay, you can, if somebody is of 80 years of age, no problem. There will be PF account, entire 12% of employee share, entire 12% of employee share will be going to the Provident Fund account. They will not be entitled for pension benefits, but they will be eligible for ADL and PF benefits. So that is the answer. My children are about 25. Nomination is registered for wife. Whether children will not be eligible for pension as they have already crossed. The concept is logically designed. Whatever the scheme is designed, this is a Social Security Act, no? And the government or whatever government helps to EPFO to make over the last there is 1.16% contributed toward pension fund. So considering all that, these added benefits are given. These are added benefits. So if the children are already completed 25 years, they are not required in any kind of requirement of social assistance or any financial assistance through your account. So considering this concept, anybody who is above 25, the benefits are not given. Wife will be given up to the she will be given lifelong. And in case of nomination for PF benefit, it will be given as per your nomination. Whatever percentage you decide, it will be given to them. Even the children are eligible, entire dependent family is eligible for nomination. No issues with that. If there is no nomination, then we will distribute equally as per the legal heir provisions of the particular religion. If a person is belonging to a particular religion, whatever their legal heir provisions dictate, according to that, it will be settled in case of no nomination. Then that's why I'm saying succession certificates and all they play a role. So always it is advisable for a better maintenance, because when we are there, we can manage the things, we can run around and all. When we are not there, then the nomination plays a role. So it is always advisable to, and then when we are not there, even these small things of success certificate or any other certificate, they become very difficult for the family members. Okay. Okay. Is an employee stops contribution from his age of 41 onwards, whether the 36, no. If the contribution is stopped 41 year onwards, the employee will keep on getting interest, compounded interest up to the age of 55. Okay. There will be no, this clause of 36 months will not be applicable for such employee, specifically after 11/11/2016. There is a notification by Government of India. Okay. If I want to buy a house, can it be used for additional house? House building advance can be claimed only once in the lifetime. Okay. You can claim one more advance for renovation of the house. Okay, that is also one time. Medical advance, medical expenses advance, there is no limit on that. Marriage related advance, I think there is maximum 3 times. And educational related advance, I think that is 5 times. I'm not very sure. This 3 or 5, I'm a little confused now. But yes, these limits are there. They are mentioned in the scheme. Okay, so accordingly, as per para 68, there will be restriction. The purpose is you should have something at the age of 58 or 55. Okay, as PF accumulations. Okay, I'm 66, still in service, and PF contributions are sent till continues. Do not withdraw. It will be continued. It's beneficial. No? You are getting interest. You are in service. Even if you stop contributions at 66, you will get interest on accumulations till 69. So I would suggest somebody attained 60, continuing PF contribution, can he close the account and start getting pension while continuing in the employment? He has to. There is no other choice. He has attained 60. Okay, he has to intimate to the PF office that I am not stopping at 58. I was contributing till 60 in pension fund. So give me, consider 2 years of additional service up to 60. Give me benefits considering 60 years of service. And the entire contribution of this 8.33%, which was previously going to pension fund, it will now go to PF fund. So entire 24% will go to provident fund account, PF account, that is account number 1. Your employer HR knows these things. So, and then you can continue with the PF membership till the date you want, or till the date you are in employment. I'm not able to change marital status on portal. It says wrong OTP, please guide. My mobile number is registered. Okay. Please verify your mobile number once again. That may be the reason it says wrong OTP.
Sir, can I ask a question on the same?
Yeah, just a minute. I would suggest you use EPF IGMS and upload a joint declaration physically signed by the employer. If there is some particular issue or something at the back end in your account, then the person who is handling your account, this EPF IGMS grievance, EPF IGMS, you can just Google, portal will open, raise a grievance, upload the joint declaration and request them. I'm unable to attach a screenshot also. I'm unable to do it online. OTP coming as wrong OTP. Please accept it and do it. The office will definitely do it. Okay, and the EPF IGMS directs to the person who is dealing with your account. It goes to the member, the PF employee's account. The person just कोई task दिया गया, the person who is handling your establishment, it will automatically go in his account. So you will be getting direct written communication from directly from the person who is dealing with it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I am suggesting a better another way which I forgot to mention here, EPF IGMS. It was there. The point was there. EPF IGMS is a better facility available to all of you. Sit in your office, sit in your house. No need to visit our office, stand in the queue. We should minimize the physical interactions these days anyways. And when you sit in this type of environment, you can get good words, good English jargon, and you can bombard us with the great words. And then you can get written communication from office. What better you want?
Sir, with no permission, can I ask the question on the online portal, please?
Yeah, please
Yeah.
proceed.
Sir, my father got retired 2 years back. He was working in the MSCB. His date of joining was 1950, in fact. But unfortunately, this problem is related to all the employees working in the MSCB. Okay. The joining date under EPF is 1980. That's correct. My father got the PF amount. But joining date under EPS has been mentioned as a 1995 because the scheme has been launched from 1995. That is why the claim has been rejecting since long time. 3 times the claim has been rejected. The joint declaration shared on speed post, also grievances submitted on the portal. I received the reply that date of joining has been changed, but actually it has not changed. Number one.
Okay, one thing I would suggest in this case, you submit a EPF IGMS grievance. If you do not get a satisfactory reply, please raise this grievance individually through your HR manager with the respective commissioner who is sitting in that office.
Mhm.
Okay, the HR of that company will definitely ask him. You give a written application, ask him to follow it up. This is why this is happening. I understand. There are a number of reasons for that, but as far as individual case is concerned, I would suggest ये एक provision है आपके लिए. Either you go with EPF IGMS, you get satisfactory reply, your query is resolved. That's great. If it is not done, attach all those things, raise it through your HR. You can directly meet the commission, no problem. But if you raise it through your HR can regularly follow it up. And as they are regularly visiting the offices, or they know the things, and they know what is going wrong and what are the things, and that may be going for every employee of that establishment. So they must have given previous letters or previous things, so they can push it in a better manner.
Yes, sir.
That is my advice to you, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, the same we did the practice. We escalated to HR manager. Unfortunately, PF office and the head office of the MSAB located in Bandra, Mumbai. My father staying in the Kolhapur district. The distance between 350 kilometers. We did everything, but we are not getting a response from neither MSAB office nor EPF. So, is there any escalation mechanism, or can we file a complaint against the employer to the EPF?
You can send it both ways. See, Bandra office, these issues are there. The problem with Bandra office is that many corporate offices are over there, and the office is definitely it is overburdened. But definitely you will get reply. You have this is EPF IGMS. One thing I'm telling to you, and I've already told you what is the solution you can get. Okay, we will move to the next one. If the employee exit date is 13 April 21 and date is 12th May 21, can employee? No. Even if the date of death is 14th April 21, the employee will not be eligible for insurance. This benefit is only available when the death occurs while in service. And as this April is mentioned, from 29th of April 21, this benefit is increased to 7 lakh rupees maximum available for the family. It was previously 6 lakhs maximum. It is increased from 29th April to 7 lakhs maximum. Let it be COVID death case, any reason, death reason, be anything, the benefits are same. Okay, there is no separate benefit for COVID. What we did is we opened some green channels, separate channel for the COVID settlements. Our office, we prepared a follow-up mechanism, and our employees were following up with the families and HR to get the claims and get them settled as early as possible. That's the only difference. And the scheme is already passed by the parliament, and things are already there. So there is no new addition, no new relaxation, no new benefit. Whatever is there, available for all other deaths, is available for COVID death. Yeah. Any other question?
Sir, good evening. This is Sri.
Yeah.
I say in EPFO member portal, I requested for update the service period. I mean, in previous industry, I worked for 3.5 years, and current industry, I am working for 6 years. So in a member portal, only the 6-year service period is appearing. My previous company service period is not at all appearing, and I have completed 2 to 3 times in this PF complaint portal also.
So I would suggest verify whether your Form 13 procedure is done or not by the previous establishment. You can submit your Form 13 through your current employer also. It does not come automatically, sir. You have to submit Form 13. Okay, एक बार check करो. It can be done online. You can link the accounts. There is a tab called as one EPF one account. So using that tab, you can raise a request. All your details are tallying. Then automatically the request will go to your previous PF service office, and that office will push it to they will settle the account over there, and they will transfer the service to the new one. Please verify whether it is done or not. And if your claims are submitted, Form 13 is duly submitted, then again the thing is EPF IGMS, if it is not giving the solution, you have to
I got
I've explained this, sir.
I got you. Sir, I have already transferred. My PF has been already transferred from previous to current employer.
But your date of joining is not changed.
Yeah. No, my date.
Then you have to coordinate with the PF office and seek reasons through these means.
Pardon?
You have to coordinate with PF office and seek reasons. You can request them to give why this is not done.
I do this also because it's very difficult to access for official authorities. Because
this forum is for different purpose. What do you want from me now? Tell me that.
What I'm expecting now, my service tenure should be appear in the.
I understand. So I'm giving you the solution. I cannot do it right now whole year.
Right. See, while I approached your office, means in this Golibar Maidan, see, nobody is entertaining that because even while I approach I have to update my service period. So nobody bother about and nobody means allowed to approach the authorities also.
It is no. I do not agree with you. I have worked in Golibar Maidan office. COVID period was a different thing. I see. Listen, I don't want to discredit.
Vikanji, please keep it session.
Yeah. Please understand. You can approach them over there. The people are there. You can raise it. You can mention the PRO head. I want to meet the concerned person. If they do not allow, you can insist. I want to meet the commissioner. Definitely, Mr. Vashtish is the commissioner over there now. And as I know him, he will definitely meet you. You can go over there on 10th of every month. On 10th, there is Nidhi Aapke Nikat. It's called as a Lok Adalat kind of concept. Definitely that day, you will be getting your things will be registered and you will be allowed to go for a personal hearing. Okay. So this is the solution for you. Yeah. So any other general query? No personal queries, please. Yeah. Any other general query now? Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And over to you, Mr. Rao.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Atul sir, for your valuable guidance. There are many things which we were not aware because like social security, for this purpose, whatever our employer used to say, we used to, chalo PF account kholna hai, khol diya, and we used to maintain. But the value addition we got today are a very interesting point that we have learned today. Also, I want to add one more thing, that new social security bill is around the corner. So what I expect, like if you can add one more session about new social security scheme, so that will be a really great for our audience, as I also run a YouTube channel in which I have around like a good number of subscribers. For them also it will be very helpful.
No, I would just like to add over here. Let the bill get notified, let the things get notified. We will definitely do that. But before that, there is one more part of this one, employer's perspective. That definitely you can arrange, and I'll be happy to address that also.
We'll communicate it further very soon on personal note. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.